The President of the United States holds a position of immense power and responsibility. This role is not just a title, it is a mantle that carries the weight of the nation's hopes, dreams, and challenges. The Oval Office, with its rich history and symbolic significance, becomes the epicenter of decision-making that can alter the course of history. As the leader of the free world, the president's decisions shape not only the nation but also the global landscape. Every speech, every handshake, and every policy decision reverberates across continents, influencing international relations and global stability. The president's role extends beyond domestic borders, requiring a delicate balance of diplomacy, strategy, and vision. From steering the country through times of war and peace to enacting policies that affect millions, the president's legacy is etched in the annals of history. Wartime presidents like Franklin D. Roosevelt faced monumental challenges, making decisions that would define the future of the nation. The signing of significant legislation, such as the Civil Rights Act, showcases the president's ability to enact change that resonates through generations. Each president inherits a unique set of challenges and opportunities. The inaugural oath marks the beginning of a journey filled with unforeseen obstacles and potential triumphs. In the Oval Office, the president reviews documents that could shape the nation's future, while press conferences announce new policies that aim to address pressing issues. Some rise to the occasion, leaving an indelible mark on the nation, their legacies immortalized in memorials and statues. The Lincoln Memorial stands as a testament to Abraham Lincoln's enduring impact, while footage of major accomplishments, like the signing of the Civil Rights Act, highlights the transformative power of presidential leadership. While others grapple with unforeseen crises or fall short of expectations, moments of crisis, such as the 9/11 attacks or the Great Depression, test the president's resolve and leadership. However, not all presidencies are marked by success. Scandals and public dissent can tarnish a president's reputation and legacy. From the founding fathers to modern-day leaders, the American presidency has been a beacon of hope, a source of inspiration, and a symbol of resilience. Portraits of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson remind us of the nation's origins, while modern presidents continue to shape its future through public events and speeches at iconic locations, and at times a subject of debate and controversy. Editorial debates on news channels, protests outside the White House, and political cartoons in newspapers reflect the dynamic and often contentious nature of the presidency. These discussions are vital to the democratic process, ensuring that the president remains accountable to the people. Understanding the contributions and shortcomings of each president is crucial to comprehending the complexities of American history. Presidential libraries and museums preserve the legacies of past leaders, while historical documentaries and academic discussions provide insights into their decisions and impacts. By studying these legacies, we gain a deeper appreciation of the presidency's role in shaping the nation's trajectory. George Washington, the first president of the United States, played a pivotal role in shaping the nation's destiny. As Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, he led the fight for independence from British rule. His presidency established many precedents that would guide the nation for centuries.
Washington's commitment to a strong, centralized government was crucial. He presided over the Constitutional Convention of 1787, drafting the United States Constitution. His farewell address cautioned against political factions and foreign entanglements, advice that influenced American foreign policy for generations.
The early years of the United States were marked by both expansion and internal struggles. Thomas Jefferson oversaw the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, doubling the size of the United States.
Jefferson's successor, James Madison, led the nation through the War of 1812, reaffirming its independence. The war marked the end of British interference in American affairs.
During this era, the United States grappled with defining its national identity and establishing its place on the world stage. The issue of slavery began to cast a long shadow over the nation, foreshadowing future conflicts. The period from James Monroe's presidency to James Buchanan's was marked by growing sectional tensions leading to the Civil War. The issue of slavery became increasingly divisive.
The Missouri Compromise of 1820 highlighted the fragility of the Union. The Compromise of 1850 and the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854 further divided the nation.
By the time James Buchanan assumed the presidency in 1857, the nation was deeply divided. Buchanan's failure to preserve the Union set the stage for the deadliest conflict on American soil. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president, guided the nation through the Civil War.
Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation in 1863 transformed the war into a fight for human freedom.
After Lincoln's assassination in 1865, Andrew Johnson oversaw the Reconstruction era.
Johnson faced the daunting task of reintegrating the Confederate States.
Ulysses S. Grant, a celebrated Civil War general, succeeded Johnson in 1869. Grant's presidency focused on protecting the rights of newly freed slaves and rebuilding the South.
However, his administration was plagued by corruption and scandal. This highlighted the challenges of governing during a time of immense change.
The latter part of the 19th century witnessed significant economic growth and industrialization.
Rutherford B. Hayes, who assumed the presidency in 1877, oversaw the end of Reconstruction.
This period saw the rise of big business and the expansion of railroads.
Labor unrest, economic depressions, and political corruption plagued the nation.
The assassination of President James Garfield in 1881 led to civil service reform.
William McKinley, elected in 1896, led the United States into the 20th century. His presidency was marked by the Spanish-American War in 1898, resulting in the acquisition of territories.
This marked a turning point in American foreign policy, as the nation began to assert itself as a global power. The early 20th century ushered in the Progressive Era, a period of social and political reform.
Theodore Roosevelt, who became president in 1901, was a key figure in this movement. Roosevelt's presidency was marked by his commitment to conservation, trust-busting, and consumer protection.
Woodrow Wilson, elected in 1912, continued the progressive agenda. His presidency was defined by World War I, which erupted in 1914.
In April 1917, the United States declared war on Germany, entering the conflict on the side of the Allied powers. Wilson's leadership during the war and his 14 points plan for post-war peace earned him a place in history.
The 1920s, often referred to as the Roaring Twenties, were a time of economic prosperity and cultural change.
Warren G. Harding's presidency, which began in 1921, was marked by a return to normalcy.
However, the prosperity of the 1920s was not shared by all Americans.
The stock market crash of 1929 marked the beginning of the Great Depression. Herbert Hoover, who succeeded Harding, struggled to address the Great Depression.
In 1932, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected president, promising a New Deal.
Roosevelt's response to the Great Depression was unprecedented in its scope and scale. His administration implemented programs designed to provide relief, recovery, and reform.
Franklin D. Roosevelt's presidency continued into the tumultuous years of World War II. His leadership was crucial during this period, as he worked closely with Allied leaders like Winston Churchill and Joseph Stalin to strategize and coordinate efforts against the Axis powers. Roosevelt's vision and determination were instrumental in shaping the Allied response and laying the groundwork for eventual victory.
After the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, the United States entered the war. This event galvanized the American public and led to a massive mobilization of troops and resources. The nation united under a common cause, and American soldiers were soon deployed to various fronts, playing a pivotal role in the global conflict.
Roosevelt did not live to see the end of the war, dying in office in April 1945. His passing marked the end of an era, and the nation mourned the loss of a leader who had guided them through some of the darkest days in history. His legacy, however, lived on through the policies and alliances he had established. Harry S. Truman assumed the presidency and oversaw the final months of the war. He faced the daunting task of making critical decisions, including the controversial choice to use atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which ultimately led to Japan's surrender and the end of World War II. Truman's leadership during this transitional period was crucial in shaping the post-war world.
The post-war era was marked by the Cold War, a period of geopolitical tension between the United States and the Soviet Union. This era saw the emergence of nuclear arms races, espionage, and ideological battles that influenced global politics for decades. The construction of the Berlin Wall became a symbol of the division between the Eastern and Western blocs.
Dwight D. Eisenhower, a celebrated World War II general, succeeded Truman in 1953. His military background and leadership experience made him a respected figure both at home and abroad. Eisenhower's presidency was characterized by a focus on stability and prosperity, as well as a commitment to maintaining peace through strength. Eisenhower's presidency was marked by efforts to contain the spread of communism. He implemented policies aimed at curbing Soviet influence and supporting allies around the world. His administration also saw the development of new military strategies and technologies to counter the perceived threat of communist expansion. His commitment to building up the American military and shaping the post-war economic order defined his tenure. Eisenhower's policies contributed to a period of significant economic growth and technological advancement in the United States. His leadership helped to solidify America's position as a global superpower during the early years of the Cold War. The 1960s were a decade of profound social and political upheaval, a time when the very fabric of American society was being challenged and redefined. This era was marked by the Civil Rights Movement, which sought to end racial discrimination and achieve equal rights for African Americans, and the Vietnam War, which sparked widespread protests and divided the nation.
John F. Kennedy, elected in 1960, was a charismatic leader who inspired a sense of hope and renewal. He embodied the hope and optimism of a new generation, promising a brighter future and a commitment to public service.
Kennedy's presidency, though tragically cut short by his assassination in 1963, left an enduring legacy that continues to influence American politics and culture. He challenged the nation to reach for the moon, igniting the space race, and took bold steps to confront racial segregation, laying the groundwork for future civil rights advancements.
Lyndon B. Johnson, Kennedy's vice president, assumed the presidency after Kennedy's assassination. Johnson oversaw the passage of landmark civil rights legislation, including the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which were pivotal in advancing the cause of racial equality.
Richard Nixon, elected in 1968, came to power during a time of great turmoil and promised to restore order and bring peace with honor in Vietnam. His administration worked towards ending the Vietnam War, but the conflict continued to cast a long shadow over his presidency. Nixon's presidency was ultimately marred by the Watergate scandal, a political controversy that led to his resignation in 1974, the first and only time a U.S. president has resigned from office.
Gerald Ford, Nixon's vice president, assumed the presidency and made the controversial decision to pardon Nixon, a move that many believed was necessary to heal the nation, but also one that sparked significant public outcry. This decision contributed to Ford's loss in the 1976 election to Jimmy Carter, a former governor of Georgia who promised a fresh start and a government as good as its people. Carter's presidency was marked by significant challenges, including the energy crisis, which led to fuel shortages and long lines at gas stations, and economic stagnation, which saw rising inflation and unemployment. Additionally, the Iran hostage crisis, where 52 American diplomats and citizens were held hostage for 444 days, further tested his administration and had a lasting impact on U.S. foreign policy.